Hello everyone, welcome to ENbreeEN, the daily current affairs news discussion by Team Enlight. Today we shall be discussing the following important topics. The first topic for today is the new development bank. So why was this in news? The Commerce Minister called the Ndb to expand its horizon to fund service delivery in education and health besides infrastructure and industrial development. So what is Ndb? It is a multilateral development bank operated by the BRICS states, that is the Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. As you can see over here in the map, all these countries have been marked. So they can be even asked a map based question on this. So just keep in mind which are the countries. So next is the purpose for this. So it mobilizes resources for infrastructure and sustainable development projects in not just BRICS countries but also in other emerging economies and developing countries. This is an important point because from prelims point of view, if they ask, if they can give you a statement regarding that it only makes infrastructure or development projects in BRICS, then it is a wrong statement. So next are some few prelims based facts for the Ndb. So it's headquartered in Shanghai, China. It was first agreed upon in the 5th BRICS Summit at Durban, and it was established at Fortaleza in Brazil in 2014. The bank is set up to foster greater financial and development cooperation amongst the 5 emerging markets. They are also called the Global South. This is an important term which you can use in your mains answer writing also. In 2018, the Ndb, it was given the observer status at the United Nations. So over here, I would like to mention that not just Ndb, but there are a few other banks which are important from the prelims point of view. For example, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. There was a question in 2019 based on that. Then there is the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank. So what you need to know is from all these banks that where do they have their headquarters, which are the member countries, what is the funding criteria or voting rights, etc. And also what sort of projects or infrastructure, etc. do they use their funds for. So these are 4 points which you must know about all these banks, and it will help you a lot in prelims. So next we come to the voting rights. It is important for you to know that in Ndb, each participant country has equal voting right, which is not so in World Bank, and there is no veto power over here. So next is, why is BRICS so important? First of all, 42% of the world's population comes under BRICS, and also 23% of the global GDP. So all these stats you can use in your mains answer writing also, and sometimes in prelims also they give certain number of numericals or stats, so it will be useful. Next is certain facts which are related to BRICS, important from prelims point of view. So first of all, the first BRICS summit was taking place in Russia. The 11th summit took place in Brasilia. Then also it is important to know the theme for past 1 or 2 years and the current year theme also. So I have mentioned them over here. Next is the 12th BRICS summit. It was hosted by Russia, and the 13th BRICS summit will be hosted by India. So these are important. Next is the Brics Cryptocurrency. So BRICS nations discuss the creation of new cryptocurrency for unified payment systems. This is important. Now over here, so the BRICS funds are divided into 2, that is some are used for the development and sustainable development project, that is infrastructure projects, and the other is the contingency fund, which is basically used for short term liquidity pressure in a country, so they can borrow these funds. So over here we have given you a mains question which was previously asked in civil service exam. You can try this question. So the next topic for today is the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. So why was this in news? The Indian Parliament Cabinet approved the ratification of Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. So first of all, we learn about what is the Montreal Protocol. This is very important. It was adopted in 1987 to protect the Earth's ozone layer by eliminating the use of ozone depleting substances, and it was a result of the Vienna Convention. This is important. So it led to the phase out of 99% of the ozone depleting chemicals which were used in refrigerators, air conditioners, aerosols, etc. And according to the latest scientific assessment, the ozone layer have shown recovery at the rate of 1 to 3% per decade. So next we come to what are the hydrofluorocarbons. It is very important to know what are hydrofluorocarbons in order to understand why Kigali Amendment was done to the Montreal Protocol. So hydrofluorocarbons are organic compounds containing hydrogen, carbon and fluorine. They are commonly used as substitutes to the ozone depleting substances like CFCs etc. in refrigerators and air conditioners. But what is the problem with these hydrofluorocarbons is that even though they cause very little or no damage to the ozone, but they are greenhouse gases and hence they cause global warming. So that's why we are introducing the Kigali Amendment. So over here we have the Kigali Amendment. So basically it is to limit the use of these HFCs, which were used as a substitute initially for other ozone depleting substances for, such as the CFCs, bromine containing halogens, methyl bromide, HCFCs, carbon tetrachloride, etc. So in brief, you must know few of these names, so that for example, if in prelims there is a question regarding the ODS or something, you know the basic names of all these ODS. So next is the how this amendment will be implemented. So richer countries like the European Union, the USA etc., they have to start the limit of their use of the HFCs cut off at least at 10% from 2019, whereas developing countries etc. like China, Brazil, India etc. will be freeze hydrofluorocarbons used by 2024, cutting it to 20% from the baseline levels by 2045. So this is important. So next important prelims based fact I have already mentioned, which are the important ODS. The next is the World Ozone Day. It occurs on 16th of September, and an important slogan of the Montreal Protocol is the common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. So you can use this in your mains answer writing also. Next is what is the solution. So the solution lies in HFOs. These stands for hydrofluoroolefin. These refrigerants are composed of hydrogen, fluorine and carbon atoms connected by a single bond between the atoms. So why they are a solution? Because they have zero ozone depletion potential and very low global warming potential. So far, so they offer more environmentally friendly alternative to CFCs, HCFCs, HFC refrigerants, etc. The HFOs have shorter tropospheric lifetimes due to the reactivity of the double C bond with the hydroxyl radicals and chlorine radicals, and hence what happens is it prevents them from reaching the stratosphere where the ozone, the good ozone exists. So over here, it is very important for you to know that and remember that the HFCs, they are not ozone depleting substances, rather they are only causing global warming, and that's why Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol has happened. So over here I have mentioned a few other conventions which are important from the prelims point of view, that is the Bonn Convention, the Stockholm Convention, the Ramsar Convention, the sites etc. So you can look into these, you can look when did they happen, what are they related to, and some other recent conventions, where did they happen etc. All these are important from prelims point of view. So next topic for today is gender equality. So why are we studying gender equality today is because recently the Supreme Court allowed women to sit for the NDA exam, that is the National Defense Academy. So why women must have equal access to jobs in armed forces? This is a question commonly asked by people also and will be very useful while you are answering any mains related topic. As you know, in paper 1 there is in the syllabus of the GS paper 1 there is women related issues, gender issues and organizations etc. So every year in GS paper 1 they ask at least 2 women related questions or question related to gender inequality etc. So it will help you to answer all these questions. So here first of all, why they must have equal access. So in the present petition they have raised the issue that it is a violation of Article 14, 15, 16 and 19 of the Constitution in denying the opportunity for women to write the exam. basically it is violation of fundamental right to right of equality before law and equal protection of law. So next we will discuss some general factors responsible for gender inequality in India. You can use it both for this particular topic as well as in general in mains answer writing in some another answer also. The first reason is the preference for son, because the girl child is seen as a burden because of practices like dowry etc., and it may lead to practices like female feticide and infanticides. You have also heard a term called son meta preference, that is people keep having daughters until they get the required number of sons. Then there is a role of cultural institutions also, such as patrilinearity, that is the inheritance is passed on from to your son. Also the family name in the Indian culture is carried forward by the son. Also patrilocality, that is most of the parents want to have a son because they feel the son will take care of them in the old age and the daughter will be married off and she will go to another house. So all these lead to gender inequality. Then role of women. So mostly the women are seen as primary caregivers in the family, and their basic responsibility is to take care of the child and the elderly etc., which leads them to retreat from the workspace. Mostly household responsibilities are not shared equally amongst Indian households. Then there is pink collarization of jobs. Usually jobs like teaching, nursing, receptionist etc. are seen as jobs for women. Hence there is already a stereotype created, and hence when women demand for jobs like in combat roles in army, it is seen as a taboo. Next is the discrimination at work. For example, the companies are do not want to hire women because they may get married and they want to retreat from the job, or they might get pregnant, so then they want leave, maternity leave etc. So for smaller workplaces it is very difficult to manage their funds. Obviously bigger companies like Google etc. have programs where they help women to come back to work etc., but for smaller workplaces that is not possible, and hence here it is where the government needs to intervene and help these companies so that they do not discriminate against hiring of women etc. So next is history of women serving in the armed forces. So here initially the women served in the Indian military in the nursing services, and they have also served in the World War I. Later their role was expanded in the women's auxiliary corps, and now they were helping in lot of other areas which was non-combatant, especially for example communication, accounting, administration, doctors, in signal processing etc. So basically there are three modes of entry in the Indian Army, that is the NDA, the IMA and the OTA, and women are allowed through the IMA as well as OTA, but they were not allowed entry through NDA. Over here I have shown a figure of the gender gap index, and there are several parameters and statistics given which you can study, and it will be very useful for your mains answer writing. So next over here, why are women not allowed in combat roles or granted permission in the Indian Armed Forces? So first of all, there is the societal issue. So in the Indian society, there is a mindset which cannot see women in the active combat roles. We do not have that image of women being rough and tough etc. Many of the male servicemen are what you call as Jawans etc. They come from rural backgrounds and rural settings. So for them it is very difficult to take commands from the women etc. That is what is argued by the army in the court, that they cannot, it will hurt their male ego etc., and they are not used to taking commands from a higher women officer. So hence when we are in the battlefield, it will be detrimental for our army etc., when the Jawans will not be listening to their seniors. Then in the time of conflict, if a woman is caught etc., it will be detrimental effect on the overall morale of the country. Next, the reason is given as physiological challenges. So there is a notion that men are physically stronger, they are more aggressive, and hence they are more suitable for army. Also they say that there is motherhood, child care, pregnancy, domestic obligations etc., which women have to take care of, and hence it is not possible for them to join the army. Also, being recruited in these combat roles, it requires one to stay away from house for long periods of time. So they say that who will do the responsibilities of the women. So all these are the reasons which are given for not recruiting women in combat roles. So next is, why is the inclusion of women in armed forces important? So first of all, it will lead to women empowerment. For example, it will give them more confidence, etc. For example, recently when the judgment for permanent commission also came, because all these otherwise create a glass ceiling for women and their success, stops at a level. Next is equality of opportunity. See, army has not really taken in women in combat roles. They are, before even giving the women an opportunity, they are denying them anything. They must first, take in women and then analyze if they are competent enough or not. Otherwise, it is a form of institutionalized gender-based discrimination. Then next is change in the nature of war. So currently, it is not so much of physical war also. It is more of, technology-based war. It's not man-to-man war mostly happening these days. Also, it is important that they train everyone equally and then see if it is possible for women to, equally train and get equally fit as men, then why not women be allowed to be part of combat forces. This will also set an example for the greater society. For example, when we see women in the army uniform as leaders, etc., this will change the mindset and image of women. It will help us analyze women in form of, in leadership roles, that they can give commands, they are strong individuals who have who are independent, etc. And also other institutions will take an example to open doors for women. Also in the judgment, it was clearly observed that the gender roles and physiological differences cannot be used to discriminate against women. So what is the way forward? For in all your mains answers, your way forward must be, a balanced way forward, as well as it should be in a positive connotation. So then, first of all, there must be enough data collected in order to study the role and how women will be in commanding, positions and combat roles. Next is, similar training must be given to both, and then, if women are equally capable, then why not? Then there has to be infrastructure created for women to be part of these, in the commanding roles as well as combat roles. For example, in the Navy, the ships have limited space. So there has to be separate space for women also created, and all these have to be taken into account. This decision will encourage women to think of career in military, and also it will correct the imbalance which is there currently in India's forces. We can take examples from several countries, for example, the United States, Israel, North Korea, other European countries, etc., where they are putting women in the frontline positions. And last but not the least, it is the right of every woman to pursue career of her choice and reach the top, since equality is a constitutional guarantee. Also, recently, since Taliban was lot in news, so US had appointed women combat people, for example, to get entry into various households, etc., where the Taliban or the militants were hiding, because women can have easier access inside the household, etc., in such settings. So let's move on to the next topic. So the next topic is ATAL Innovation Mission. So the ATAL Innovation, in collaboration with Dassault Systems Foundation, launched the Student Entrepreneurship Program. So what is the Student Entrepreneurship Program 3.0? This is designed to motivate school students to become future innovators and entrepreneurs. Basically, it is in line with Make in India and other innovation programs, where Indian government is pushing for, more technology which is built in India. And also there has been a constant push by the Indian government for startups. So it is, early start, from the very early, we start training our students, etc., about these, future innovations, so that when they grow up, they start their own startups. So the theme for SEP 3.0 is Made in 3D, Seed the Future Entrepreneur Program. So basically, it is to create pseudo startups, design and prototype their innovation using 3D printing. This is a very important technology, 3D printing. Prepare marketing campaigns, define the product pricing, and create expansion strategy. It will give them a basically real life feel of how a startup works. So the next is, what is the ATAL Innovation Mission? Basically, to cultivate 1 million children in India as neoteric innovators. and that's why we are setting up the ATAL tinkering labs across India. So the objective is basically that current technologies like AI, the big data, blockchain, machine learning, etc., they require a lot of out of box thinking, curiosity, creativity, etc. And the Indian curriculum till now has been very much focused on mugging up facts, etc. But this sort of a curriculum will not help students to really achieve our goal of excellence in these technologies like AI, etc. So we need to have cognitive skills, analytical skills, etc. So all these skills will be fostered through this particular ATAL tinkering laboratories, so that they can have adaptive learning, physical computing, etc. will be learned. So how do these have financial support? So there will be a one-time establishment cost of 10 lakhs, and also operational expenses of 10 lakhs will be provided for the period of 5 years to each ATL. Then the eligibility of the schools has been given. It is also important to know that this is an initiative of Niti Aayog. So over here there are certain other news which were there in today's newspaper, but we have already discussed them previously. So these are the links to that. Thank you so much for listening, and have a nice day.